Okay, welcome everyone to today's council meeting of November 23rd, 2021. The time is 1 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order. We have a full complement of, I'm missing Lori Burt here today, actually. She sent her regrets. I'm sorry about that. We have some staff with us today. And I'd like to welcome those of you who may be watching via YouTube or watch the recorded version later at your convenience. So welcome to all. Call the meeting to order, and at this time then I would read the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Asphodel-Norwood is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Islands First Nations. We respectively acknowledge that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Now at this time, I'll ask for a moment of silent reflection so we may reflect upon our duties of today as councillors, please. Thank you. I'll ask council at this time if there's any declaration of pecuniary interest with any of the subjects at hand, at time of or now would be good. All right, seeing no hands, thank you. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda for the meeting agenda of today, November 23rd, 2021, be adopted as circulated. Motioned by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. So the council meeting minutes of November the 9th, that these minutes of November the 9th be adopted as presented and or amended. Motioned by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor Walsh. I guess that would be as amended. I mean, as presented, sorry. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising from those minutes? All right, seeing no hands, thank you. The consent agenda then. Correspondence for information, there'd be C1, C2. C1 would be the CAO librarian's report. C2, Councillor Barry Walsh's Councillor Liaison report, September 14th, November 16th. C3, Deputy Mayor Lori Burt, Councillor Liaison report for November the 17th. C4, Rice Lake Snowdrifters, a thank you. And R1, Candace, would be the 2021 third quarter variance in the minutes of the cemetery board. That the consent agenda be approved as circulated. Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor War. Is there any discussion on any of these matters? Councillor War, please.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment that it's nice to see the strat plan included in the library correspondence. I see it's a high level document, but it's nice to see that included. Thank you.
Good comment. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, there's a motion and seconded. All in favor then, please. And that's carried. There's no delegations or presentations today, so now we're on to staff and committee reports. So R2 would be Peter Deshane. He's our Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services. And this report is regarding our Center Line Road final update. Peter, the floor is yours and you're muted, sir.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So the Centerline project contractor finished up work on October 8th, 2021. We had a site meeting with the consulting engineer and the contractor to do a site walkthrough. We wanted to review any incomplete or deficient items through the contract, and there were none identified through that walkthrough. So that was good. And we had previously reported that some additional erosion control measures would be required within the project limits, and that township staff would complete that work once the contractor was finished up. So we've done a thorough review and have determined that the additional measures will include topsoil and erosion mat and some 4 to 6 inch minus riprap placed on filter cloth. And we've identified all of those areas, and that work will be completed in 2022 by township staff. And we will talk about the financial impacts of that below. And additionally, as previously mentioned, also, we had the consulting engineer do a roadside safety assessment for this project. And we did receive that report on October 5th, 2021. And it's understood that, so just a little bit of background actually from that report. So there are many factors that go into deciding or what is required for roadside safety devices. But two of the main ones are the slope adjacent to the shoulder and the depth of the ditch. So anything that's steeper than 3 to 1 and deeper than 1 meter would typically require guide rail. And anything that is less steep than 3 to 1 and not as deep or less than 1 meter deep would not require guide rail. Now that's pretty high level. The TAC manual goes through many other requirements, but that's just kind of a high level overview of what would be required for guide rails or roadside safety devices. So from that report, the engineer identified that there would be a total of 2,210 meters of guide rail required throughout the entire project. And of which we can reduce that to 1,030 plus end treatments. And we can reduce that by adding some fill along the slopes to make them less steep and reduce the depth of the ditch. Now that's not going to happen very quickly. That'll happen over the next 2 to 3 years type thing, and we'll do that. Township staff will do that work as well. So the 1,030 meters of guide rail that was identified is identified as being critical. And a critical slope is obviously anything that's steeper than 3 to 1, but deeper than 2.5 meters. And we have 1,030 meters of that. And that will be done in 2021. And just a little bit of pricing to talk about here. So there are 2 options for us to cover this requirement, and that's 3 cable guide rail, which is 3 CGR, or steel beam guide rail, SBGR. And there's 2 types of end treatment. One type is energy attenuating, which typically goes on steel beam, and then there are the anchor blocks, which typically goes on 3 cable guide rail. We wouldn't require steel beam, except that 3 cable guide rail can't go on a radius. And there are a couple areas that where we need guide rail on a radius. So we're going to have to go with steel beam guide rail, unfortunately. And the cost difference between 3 cable and steel beam, 3 cable is $50.50 a meter, and steel beam is $130 a meter. But that does not include the end treatments. That would be over and above that. And we'll go through that a little further down, actually right now. So here's a little detailed chart of the financial impact. So the original contract value was $1,918,532. The value on the final payment was $1,884,779.98, which resulted in net savings of $33,752.02. We've estimated that the erosion control measures that we identified that are required will cost approximately $32,932.56. So that savings seen above would cover those costs. The cost for the guide rail, so the 3 cable guide rail Total cost is about $45,450. Anchor blocks is about $28,800. Steel beam guide rail totaling about $13,000, and the energy attenuating terminals totaling about $27,200. And then there are some locates required out there because there are some underground utilities, which will cost about $10,000, give or take, to expose those and daylight them. And that'll be a total cost of $125,000. And so that will be funded from the 2021 transportation budget. So basically, to conclude, the project is all finished up, and township staff will do the erosion and control measures in 2022. The guide rail identified to be placed on the critical areas will be done in 2021. That's all I have.
Okay, Peter, thanks. That was a good report. Just want to say that when you speak numbers like that and you say them fast, it doesn't sound as bad. Any comments or concerns, questions from council at this time? Councillor Walsh, please.
Through you, Mayor. Peter, just two questions if I can. One is regarding the long-standing wait for the hydro poles to be relocated. Have we any update from Hydro One on that?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So they are currently working on those relocates. Some of it required some underground work to be done, which has now been done, and all the holes are all excavated and ready to go. So I imagine it's just a scheduling issue with Hydro now, which we expect to be completed in 2021. But we don't have a firm date on that, but we expect it to be done in 2021.
Okay, thank you. Certainly closer than what it had been.
Yes.
And really the second comment, again, maybe I'll direct this more towards Candace, is I guess just a little bit of the disappointment when you read through this that the engineering kind of didn't pick up on the guide rails. And I know I mentioned that you, Candace, and you kind of indicated that you had a conversation with the engineering company. So I just maybe want to share that with the rest of the group in terms of what kind of come out of that conversation.
Sure. I did have a conversation, you are correct, with the owners of Engage Engineering, and voiced the township's concerns with the fact that the guide rails were missed, and the fact that any erosion mitigation that was included in the contract had a deficient quantity. It did not cover the amount of erosion mitigation that needed to occur for the entire length of the road. So both of those items were brought forward to the owners. It was a productive meeting from the standpoint that they owned the error. They recognized the fact that it was their error. They did not give excuses. They just owned it and apologized for it. That said, it's important to remember that if it wasn't missed, the township would still have to pay for it. The only difference would be that it would have been included in the original contract, and we're actually just dealing with it now. So that if the guide rails were caught in the design, they would have been included in the original contract, which means the contract value would be higher by the amount it's costing us to have them installed. Mm-hmm. And plus probably a 15% charge in order to have them manage it versus us having, directly managing it with the installation company. So that said, they have looked at their internal processes. They have reviewed as to why it was missed on their end, in hopes that they will do better moving forward. And I suspect that the township is going to maybe see some relief in other areas to help compensate with the fact that that was missed. But once that is determined, staff will report back to council on that at a later date.
Okay. Thank you. And that's fair. Okay. Mistakes happen. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Peter, nice report. Thanks for the breakdown for the financial impact. I did have one question. When starting the guide rails, are there any priority sections of the center line that you would commence with, or would you do the guide rails all at the same time? Like, how would that process work?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The intention would be to do it all at the same time. Like as much as we can do it at the same time. So we'd start probably between County Road 45 and the 8th line. There's a section in there that I would say is probably the most critical, and we'll start there and work our way towards the towards the 3rd line.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions or concerns from council? All right. My only comment, Peter, is in the report, it said that you did, let me see if I can find this. Oh, you did a walkthrough, a site walkthrough. So just on the lighter side of things, how many days did it take you to walk that road?
It didn't take very long.
Yeah, no, I know. That's just a terminology you guys use, I suppose, is you just got to go check things out. But on the, when Candace mentioned about taking the job on for ourselves, I do think in the long run, it'll probably, like you mentioned, Candace, be cheaper for us that to have it done this way than have it done through the engineers that were there. We're able to control our own destiny after the fact, and to a certain extent, it's a price of doing business too. So anyway, thanks for all you've done for us on that, Peter, and Candace, of course. All right, so with this report then, I'm asking for an emotion that we accept this report regarding Centerline Road as the final update for information then. Motioned by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Archer. Any other questions concerning the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. All right, thank you, sir. The next one, R3, I don't see Ed with us here today. Candace, are you looking after that one then?
Yes, I can deliver the report, Mayor, if that's okay.
Yes, so this report is regarding the merger agreement / stock deal. Candace, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is another step in the merger agreement that was a condition of consent application B-26-21. The application for consent was submitted to Peterborough County by Kathy Stockdale, and the purpose of the application is to create an addition to an agricultural lot. The consent was approved on April 13th, 2021 by Township Council. We supported it on that date, with Land Division doing the final conditional approval on June 4th of 2021. The merger agreement in front of council today is a condition of that consent. And as council is aware, an applicant has 12 months to satisfy all conditions. So there is a timeliness to the matter, of course. The agreement that's attached to the report is there for council's review. I'm not going to reread the agreement, assuming council has had a chance to review. It is pretty standard. You've seen quite a few of these in the course of the last 2 years. The bylaw is accompanying it, and it will be executed by the mayor and I and forwarded on to the lawyers and who represent the applicant so that they can respond to Peterborough County and let them know that this condition has been satisfied. I will leave it to council if they have any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you. So we need a motion then to receive this report for the Stockdale for information, and further that you authorize myself, the mayor, and the clerk to execute a merger agreement between Catherine Louise Stockdale, who's the applicant, Catherine Louise Stockdale, and David Ian Stockdale, the purchaser, and the corporation of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood. Motion by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right. We're on to R4 then. Candace, this would be regarding our 2022 council meeting schedule, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So in front of you is a proposed 2022 council meeting schedule, which reflects the most current changes to procedural bylaw 2020-33, which we dealt with at a previous meeting. You can see that we are proposing one meeting in January, one in February, two on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month up until July. We'll go on to summer schedule, which is one meeting per month for those months. Then we'll revert back to the second and fourth Tuesday. Traditionally, we've been holding one meeting in the month of October, the second and fourth Thursday of November, and then traditionally one meeting in the month of December due to the Christmas holidays. As budget is slated to be adopted on the 14th of December, which is 1 month and technically one meeting earlier than traditionally we have seen the municipal budgets approved. So that public meeting for the budget that was traditionally scheduled for the second Tuesday in January is no longer required. So I will leave it with council for any discussion or questions or any amendments that you would like to see.
Floor is open, council.
That's good.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you through you, Mayor. No, I think the council meeting looks great. I think it's doable as long as like staff's able to do all the reports with one meeting per month may give a little time to get those reports ready for council as well. So thank you.
Yeah, the way I understand it, it helps get the other jobs done when it's not worrying about having to get the minutes out, getting the agenda ready, one thing after another. So, all right, if there's no other questions, then we're going to ask for a motion then to receive this for information and that we approve the 2022 council meeting schedule as presented. Motion by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried then, thank you. R5, again, Candace, this is our draft 2022 municipal operating and capital budget. Exciting times.
Yes, so I'm just going to share my screen. Can everybody see that? Yep. Okay. So today we are going to be presenting the 2022 draft municipal operating and capital budget for council in hopes that after today's meeting, we are able to advertise the public meeting for adoption of the budget for the December 14th meeting of council. So as council is aware, traditionally in the fall of 2021, since September, council has been seeing department by department draft budgets in order to give management, council, and the public the opportunity to see the budget in small doses and in snippets in order to provide opportunity for comments in order to ensure a greater and deeper understanding of the budget and what's being proposed. Today, November 23rd, as stated, you're going to see the full draft with the hopes of final adoption with the public meeting on December 14th of 2021. Budget pressures for the 2022 budgets. I don't believe there's going to be too many surprises here for council. But there is no phase-in assessment again there hasn't been for 2021 and 2020, and we're not going to see any phase-in for 2022. The provincial government has bumped it out to 2023. Did receive that announcement last week. The Alma Street pedestrian bridge replacement is a main capital item that's going to have to be addressed in 2022. The Alma Street vehicular bridge was replaced 8 years ago, but the pedestrian bridge was not touched during that project. So the pedestrian bridge will be addressed based on current conditions and what the engineer's recommendations are at this time.
Hey, Candace, were you changing screens? Because mine stayed the same as the original, the start of it. I wasn't sure if you were flicking through and changing screens or not.
I did change screens. Mine says budget pressures.
No, ours doesn't. It's stuck at the very beginning.
Ours is page 1, Dennis.
Oh, okay. Let me just.
Technology, it's a
Is it
wonderful
still
thing.
on the first slide?
Yes.
Oh, well, great. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing and try again. Hold on, please.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's better if the screen changes as you're talking for anyone at home that can watch it, then they'll understand where we're at. I mean, we've read it 100 times and seen it a few times. So, I mean, we're well aware, but
why, but let me just try again.
Says budget pressures now on our end.
Okay, that's a good sign. Hopefully doesn't get stuck again. I'm not really sure, Mayor. My apologies. I'm not really sure why it got stuck, to be honest. But hopefully we can continue.
You don't need to apologize.
The 2022 proposed budget fully funds all the short-term capital plans. So the sidewalk plan, parks plan, surface treatment plan, et cetera, et cetera. The Township Council has been supportive all the way through of the 5-year capital plans that management team has put forward. And again, it does make the budgetary process a little bit less painful when we're able to pull out those plans that are identified through asset management strategies, et cetera. And we're just able to pull those priorities out and put them into the budget. And the 2022 budget does respect and put forward all of those predetermined plans, which is good news. It's going to address equipment replacement. Again, we are continuing with our aggressive reserve allocation plan for 2022 and probably forever. Basically, in the next 10 to 15 years, there's a lot of equipment that needs to be replaced, but we take it out in small bites and we're planning for the future, which makes each year a little bit easier to take on. The reduction in the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, which is the OMPF, which is a transfer payment from the province. It's not conditional. The township is able to utilize, whether that's from operational or capital expenditures. There was a slight reduction in that. We will continue with the replacement of some, that just seems, we don't need that in there actually, when we'll see continued impact from the pandemic, of course. Did the screen change?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Budget highlights. So again, just a snapshot of where we're headed with the municipal budget. The proposed tax rate increase is 0.91%, so just shy of the 1% mark, which is going to have the average impact of $1.12 as a monthly proposed tax rate increase. So this $1.12 is representative of an average residential assessment of $211,944.83. Again, that the average annual assessment for a residential property has reduced for the township last year. For 2020, which fed the 2021 budget, it was approximately $217,000. So there's been about a $6,000 reduction in the average residential assessment, which most would find surprising based on all of the growth in the township. But again, we're behind in assessment by a couple of years because the rates were froze, right? So we're adding more homes, but we're not seeing any increase in assessment, which of course is going to dilute that base and bring the rate down. Municipal tax portion, you can see is a difference of in total $13.43, which averages out to $1,497.38 for the municipal portion only. This does not include the county tax rate, the education rate, or any in-year changes for MPAC assessment. So I think it's important to highlight that although MPAC is not doing any phase-in assessment, if you did make a change to your property through building permit, you still are able then to see MPAC is assessing those. So if it's a new build or you've had to take out a building permit for a change of use, or you built a garage, or you've made a change to your home and that's been assessed through MPAC through the building permit process, then you will see an assessment adjustment based on that permitting process. But the in-year changes are the assessment forms you get from MPAC that say from 2016 to 2020 and 2017, this is your assessment, 2018, 2019. So that phase-in approach is what was frozen, but any in-year changes are still being captured. So this slide just follows suit with, again, we just showed you what the township portion is going to be. When you submit taxes to the township, we are then responsible for distributing those tax dollars to the education streams as well as the upper tier, which is Peterborough County. And you can see that Peterborough County takes 29% of your municipal tax bill, and education takes approximately 13%. That said, this is obviously not based on 2022 allocations, as the county's budget has not been adopted and education has not been adopted, and we have not received those final rates, but traditionally it doesn't veer too far off of these percentages. Again, you can see from a weighted assessment standpoint, the township has seen a net change increase of assessment of 3.56%. You can see the biggest increase is going to be in new commercial, as well as some new industrial. And of course, the increase in residential for the growth. The new industrial there you can see is increased by 100+%. That amount is a new tax line for the township. We have never seen this tax rate before. And it is going to then, it says new industrial for a reason. So that new industrial won't remain new industrial in the next tax year when the next assessment roll is delivered. That will then be transferred over to the regular industrial line. So it'll increase by this approximate 720,000. And if we do not see any additional new industrial, then we may not see that tax line next year, the next year, just when we see new industrial properties come online. So all in all, 3.56 net change to weighted assessment. I'm just going to kind of scroll through here. I can't see all of your faces. So I'm going to scroll through and make sure you don't have any questions before we go into the department by department budgets. Anybody have any questions? Nope. Oh, Councillor Ward does. Mayor, Councillor Ward has a question.
Yeah, go ahead, please. I can't see you either, so.
Okay. Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to have a quick question. I didn't. I just thought of it now. What was the reduction in the OMPF to the township? You said it wasn't significant.
No, it's about 30,000, 38,000 and change, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, and actually I have, through you, Mayor, I have actually asked Candace this, but I just want to share with everybody. County tax rate, Roger, do you have any sense from county what 2022 could look like? I know you haven't asked, but.
Yeah, they always start high. I think they're at 4.41 or something like that now. The last time we had any kind of discussion, but they always start somewhere and then make their way back down to where it's a bit more realistic. I do know that they want to put a levy on to help transportation side of things with an extra 2 to 2.5% out of that tax base. So stay tuned.
Okay. And education, Candace, at this point, we have no information?
No, we have none.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now we're going to take a step back and go through each department and give the highlights as to what's contributing to the 2022 budget for each department. So the first department is council and library. So the contribution to the municipal libraries hits the council department, as well as the municipal election. So 2022 is a municipal election year. So you're going to see the $25,000 that it costs to run the municipal election hit the 2022 budget. That said, we do transfer each year as every 4 years that takes place. So we're going to pull $18,000 out from the election reserve that we've been putting forward in that reserve since 2018. You're going to see a 5% increase to the library contribution, which is an increase in the open hours. I did include the library budget presentation that was put forward and supported by the library board for council's review. It was sitting at 8% when originally presented, but the CEO and I chatted, and it was recommended that the township pull the IT for the library in-house. Based on the township moving forward with an IT person that we're going to share with Duro Dummer and Havelock Belmont Methuen, which I will speak to a little bit further in the administration budget, but that allowed there to be a 3% reduction of the original 8% ask to the library budget. 20% increase in insurance. You've been hearing this all the way along since September. I did receive the draft renewal proposal and it came in at 18%. So we aren't too far off with the 20% that's been sitting in the draft budgets by department all the way along, as well as the phase in of the counselor remuneration, which that project and the recommendations from the consultant, you're going to probably see early in the new year. Any questions on council and library?
I see no hands.
Okay. Administration, again, 20% increase in liability insurance. Again, we're sitting at about 18. Increase in payroll costs. I don't know if anyone has been seeing the news articles and everything that's going out about this, the Canada Pension Plan and what they're doing there as far as an increase. So as an employer, we are a contributor. So we're seeing that 5% or so increase in change. Asset management, OREG 588, still continuing to gain compliance there. We have till July 1st of 2022 to be completely compliant. So we'll have the final tail end of that project. We're almost there. We're rounding third base on that project, so not too much longer. HR Live, which is a consulting services and software. So HR Live is a live software where each employee has a login and password where they can log in and they review all policies. So all policies are updated through the portal, and then each employee is given time and opportunity to log in, review that policy, and then they acknowledge that they've reviewed and received that policy as a sign off. As we're growing and as the provincial mandates, whether it's pandemic related or health and safety related, continues to get increase each year. So we have to review them annually. So this is a process that we can review them with each employee annually, as well as there's an onboarding process. So as far as it creates interview questions, checks references, prepares letter of offer packages, assists with any and gives advice on any potentially disciplinary actions, et cetera. So it's an HR support system. As well as the sharing of dedicated IT personnel with Durodummer and HBM. So I met with the CIOs of each of those municipalities, and we had a discussion, as we are all finding as the cyber world is becoming more and more dangerous and scary, for lack of a better term, and the onus on us to ensure that we're protecting our digital databases, et cetera. Not to mention, as we grow, the more workstations we have to manage, and the softwares that we have to ensure are working together as well as independently and doing what we need them to do. So we've utilized an independent IT consultant for quite some time, but we do feel that it's time to make a change. Some municipalities have decided that they would go with Peterborough County and utilize their IT services. Peterborough County needs to hire in their IT department in order to take on any more lower tier municipalities, but they need 2 municipalities in order to hire 1 person. So the 3 of us need to go on, which means we need a 4th, and the county would have to hire 2. And then again, we're back to somewhat struggling to be a priority, so to speak, and not being really in control of our own destiny. So the 3 of us met, and we are all proposing in our 2022 budgets that we would hire a full-time IT personnel and share the costs equally, a third across each municipality, and we all get dedicated time each week. And of course, weekly needs may change. Maybe we have some sort of software server upgrade issue and need that individual here for 3 days. You can bet that those municipalities maybe 6 months later will go through the same thing. So we are pretty certain that it'll work out in the wash, from ensuring that each municipality is getting equal time. When you look at it on an annual basis, maybe not week to week based on whose needs are what, but annually it'll all work out in the wash, so to speak. So pretty excited about that. So that circles back around to my comment in regards to council and library. So us bringing that person on saved the library approximately $6,000 in change off their budget for their independent IT software, because this employee then would just pop up to the libraries and do any of the workstation work that they need to do there as well. We would just transfer them over there. Any questions on the administration budget before we move on?
Any questions or comments, council?
I just
Go ahead.
Just for you, Matt, just a comment on the sharing of the dedicated IT. That just makes so much sense, Candace. Now we have our own kind of person that we can share, and certainly IT and in the world of security and malware and everything going on out there, it just makes absolute sense that we can have our own dedicated help. So good decision.
Thank you, I agree.
Yeah, thank you. My comment, I guess, is so everyone is on board, or does this still have to go through their budget system too yet, Candace?
Yes, so it all has to be presented to our councils. So they are all presenting it within, we're all presenting within the same 2-week time frame. So obviously they're feeling confident that it's going to get approved, but obviously it needs to go through their budgetary processes. Duro Dummer is looking to adopt, I believe, the exact same week as us in December. So I think we're going to be right in line with them as far as timing goes. Havelock Belmont Methuen has reported that they're going to be a bit later, but are willing to kind of jump on board without the full budget being adopted.
That's good news.
It
Thanks.
is great news. You're welcome.
Pretty good.
All right. No other questions on that one then. Thanks.
Okay. Well, there we go. Facilities. Facilities, as you know, in 2020 and 2021, are the capital projects at the facilities were in the forefront, whether that be the town hall or the Norwood Library or the medical center. So taking a shift in priorities in 2022, and that's why you're seeing the reduction in the tax requirement there for this department. That said, we are going to complete the landscaping at the town hall. So obviously some sod or some grass seed needs to be planted out there and needs to be made green again, as well as the flower beds. Gail's garden needs to be installed. There needs to be a bench out there. So there's been dollars included in the 2022 budget to just clean that up, as well as the new front door at the Norwood Library. COVID is playing a pretty heavy role in procuring a door for the front. So we should see that in 2022 to finish up that project as well. We're also going to be making that space a little more green as well, as adding some bollards or some sort of obstruction to the back alleyway to ensure that no vehicular traffic can come through there. There'll be something temporarily put up there before winter, and then something more permanent put in place in the spring. Any questions on facilities?
Council? Oh, Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just a comment. It will be nice to get that new front door on the Norwood Library and the landscaping done in the town hall to ensure that downtown core looks completed. You know, it's been a bit of a season, so it's nice to have those finishing line projects.
Good comment. Seeing no other hands. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so for the fire department, again, you're going to continue to see the $80,000 allocation each year to reserves for the future replacement of pumper number 2 in Westwood, scheduled for 2025. We've seen the 10% increase in dispatch contract costs. We've seen that for a few years now. It was a 5-year contract with the city of Peterborough that all the lower tiers are seeing across the board. Again, the insurance impact and the list of capital items that we're going to be taking care of. So thermal camera and airbags, both of those are 3 to 4 decades old. And it is time to replace them before we get to either an accident scene or a fire and they are no longer working or functional and able to do their job in an emergency situation, as well as a set of coveralls for each of the firefighters for to fight grass fires. As of right now, they use their bunker gear, and in July, that's not always required to have a full set of bunker gear, and just to ensure that they always have safe gear that is temperature appropriate to be wearing to fight a grass fire, not overheating too early because they're wearing a full set of bunker gear that's not required. So that's what the coveralls are for. Any questions in regards to the fire department?
Councillor Archer, please.
The only question I had was on Candace, on the 80,000 allocation, with the price of equipment going up in price, do we need to be bumping that up few thousand for the next few years to make sure you have enough money in there to cover the new truck in 2025?
That's a good question. Through you, Mayor. So I agree. It has been a conversation. So I think what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to tender a year early, just because of the year. So that's going to give us an extra year to be able to determine. And I think the final year, it's going to have to hit that tax base. So whether we start bumping it up another 5,000 in the next, or 10,000 in the next 2 years, and then the last year when we tender, we have to guaranteed it's going to be a year to get this truck, at least 12 to 18 months, which is actually going to push us to get one more budget year out of it.
Yeah.
Which will pick up the difference. But yes, it is a concern, actually. Public Works equipment, the manager of Public Works and I've had the same conversation as far as when we start looking at the years we want to replace the large pieces of equipment, the grader or snowplow trucks, we could be looking, I don't think the impact of COVID is going to go anywhere by 2025. So we could be looking at 12 to 18 months to get a piece of equipment, considering our excavator is still on a ship in the ocean and has been for quite some time.
Yeah.
And it was ordered back in February,
Yeah.
March. So, oh no, good comment. But we do have our thumb on the pulse, and I suspect you're going to see a bigger impact in 2025 with it not being onboarded until 2026.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. Question to Candace. I see that there was an increase in staff training, and I think there was a little highlight retirements. Is that for additional training for new volunteer firefighters coming on, or is that more training for the chief, or how is that broken down?
Thank you. Good question, through you, Mayor. So the increase in the staff training is for the new recruits. So we just went out and we just finished the recruitment cycle. You will see the results of that recruitment process on December 14th in a staff report. That being said, there was new recruits are being onboarded in Station 1 and Station 2. And so some of the recruits have come with some training already in place, but they all need some sort of training. And unfortunately, training of new recruits isn't cheap. That said, at least they're able to do it local at the Ontario Fire College here in the village, which is of course nice. So we're able to save some cost there for transportation and lodging. But yes, that is what it's for. It's for the new recruits that are coming on board late this year, early next year.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions in regards to fire? Okay. So Policing and Conservation Authority, again, you're seeing a slight reduction here. The majority of that is from a reduction in the Conservation Authority's our allocation to their budget. So the levy has seen a reduction, and the reason for that is there was a 3-year allocation to the floodplain mapping project that was seen overall. So the Ouse River had to be remapped for floodplain, and that project is now complete. So there's no longer to contribute to that project. So it came off of the levy. So that's where you're seeing a reduction, as well as there was a slight reduction in the OPP policing cost that was quite minimal. But overall, you're seeing a $22,000 reduction in the tax requirement for policing and ORCA. No level of service change though, which is nice.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Questions, council? All right, seeing no hands, thank you.
Bylaw and animal control, no significant budgetary impacts are proposed for this budget. We're going to carry on status quo. That said, I do suspect with the municipal modernization funding project that RFP is out to retain that consultant. I suspect there's going to be a recommendation for a software that comes forward for the bylaw department. That said, there should be enough funds in that funding stream to be able to support the purchase and onboarding of that software. So all in all, no significant impacts. We're going to carry on. That said, it is a department to watch probably in the next 3 to 5 as the municipality grows. Bylaw tends to follow suit. But I'll take any questions.
Council? No questions?
Good.
Thank you.
The building department, the good news story of any municipal budget. So zero impact to the taxpayers at all to run this budget. It is fully self-funded due to any surplus in previous years of the building department being allocated to a reserve. Obviously, it brings in a fairly significant revenue stream with all the growth that the township is seeing. And there's over $400,000 sitting in that reserve, and it'll fund current year and future operational expenses to run this department. We seem to be running in a surplus position, and I don't suspect that to change in the next coming years. So again, no impact to the tax base at all for that department across the board. Any questions?
Council? No questions. Very good.
Transportation budget. So this budget seat is the largest municipal budget department that we have, takes the majority of the funds. Obviously, roads is a significant service that we provide the residents, and that does include bridges and dams and sidewalks and storm and equipment. So again, from an asset perspective, it is definitely the most heaviest department. So we're only seeing a slight increase in the tax requirement for this department, again, because we are utilizing reserves that we have been steadily adding to each year. So now it's time to cash in on that long-term financing plan. So you'll see that we have to complete the bridge and dam biannual inspection, as well as the replacement, as we've already spoke about, to the Alma Street pedestrian bridge, the surface treatment plan, the third line. So we'll have to finish up the third line prep in the spring. It wasn't quite finished in 2021. So we'll finalize the prep in the new year when spring commences, and then we'll be able to get it hard topped. As well as we'll be closing the gaps on center line west of County Road 38 and the fourth line between Sand Road and center line, as I explained to council when this department came forward in pre-draft form, that those gaps were created when we took on the hill project, when we were surface treating all the hills that used to wash out. So all of those little gaps were created. So we'll be able to close those up. And so you won't be driving on surface treatment, a little bit of gravel back to surface treatment. We'll be able to close off those gaps. Sidewalks, these sidewalks have been deferred for a couple of years due to the pandemic and some other priorities that took over. So Elm Street, the Baker Street connection on County Road 45, as well as some highway number 7 patches specifically to the west end of the village. Guide rails, Centerline Road, as well as Sand Road Bridge. We're going to replace the 2008 pickup truck. Again, we had 2 2008 pickup trucks. One was replaced in 2018. We have separated them, so we're not replacing 2 trucks in the same year, and we're able to squeeze out and get 13 years out of it, but it is time. We will be doing some transfers to reserves again for future equipment replacement, 28,000 for the backhoe, 122,000. So go back to Councillor Archer's comment earlier. We were traditionally putting 100,000 away for the grader. We bumped that up to 122 this year in anticipation that we're probably going to take a hit there. So Centerline Road, you'll see the maintenance holdback, as well as the erosion mitigation that Peter was speaking to you about earlier in this meeting, as well as Ridge Street. You're going to see this mentioned in the water department budget. We will be replacing the water main on Ridge Street from Pine Street west up to the end of the cul-de-sac there. And obviously, to replace the water main, we'll be digging up the road. So the road needs to be rebuilt, new asphalt and curbs, which hits the transportation budget. So this is where it's nice to see when 2 departments, and we're not in silos, we're working together and seeing that it's hitting both budgets and that full asset is being taken care of. We're not ripping up the water main one year and then doing a road the next. So it's nice to see those managers talking and getting their priorities in alignment. Any questions in regards to transportation?
Council? Seeing no questions. Very good.
The environmental services budget, again, is seeing a slight reduction. It's more in line with traditionally what we've seen as a budgetary expense and a tax requirement for this department, because the transfer station bridge was replaced. So it was bumped up a bit heavier for 2021. So it's going back down to fall back in line of traditionally what we're seeing. We will be transferring to reserves for the closure plan, and we'll have some consulting fees for the closure plan. as well as during that process, we will be speaking to the consultant about our ECA and organics as well. We'll touch base with them during that process and see what kind of is involved with amending that ECA and what we can take up there. And basically, there is a site plan for that site, so we can't even put things in a different spot unless we have an amendment to the ECA. They keep pretty tight reins on it up there, but we'll interject that into the conversation as we go and report back to council, since organics has become such a hot topic at the county. So we'll ensure that we are getting as educated as we can so that we're ready for any decision that the county may or may not make. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Council, any questions on this? All right, seeing no hands, thank you.
Recreation. So you are going to see a $50,000 allocation to reserves for replacement of the chiller in 2023 and the condenser in 2024. So the maintenance company, or the company that provides this service and has for many years on the ice plant at the community center, has stated that these two items, the lead hand was doing some forward thinking there and asked them to take a look and see what years we're going to need some heavy replacements. And we've been putting money into reserves each year, about $25,000 for the ice plant replacements. So that is why we're in pretty healthy condition, but we do need to increase that to 50,000 now, since we're getting closer to the replacement of those assets. We're going to see the expansion to the community center for the fitness center. Again, that RFP for the design build is out as you and I speak, and the results of that RFP with the recommendation of who to award that contract to will come to the December 14th meeting of council. The design will commence. There'll be a kickoff meeting right away, and we'll finalize the design over January, February, March, with breaking ground in May, to be completed hopefully in about, well, I don't want to say a date, but let's say 6 months. I suspect, 4 to 6 months. If all goes well, it should be sewn up. And the goal is to obviously have as much as we possibly can have done before the ice season starts, obviously. So very exciting times. Again, you'll see the dehumidifier replacement. Of course, an increase in liability insurance. A community center is one of the heavier facilities that sees liability insurance, obviously due to the rentals to the public. And then the all wheels park. So you're going to see the release of a draft design to the public out on social media and the website by the end of this week, maybe even tomorrow. And we'll be looking for comments from the public on that. I'm very excited. I think the public is going to, and the youth of the village are going to be in the township are going to be quite pleased. So really looking forward to receiving the comments back on that. If we don't see any major design changes based on what the public is asking for, which I don't think we will, because we've had some pretty heavy consultation through the surveys. We kind of know what it is that they're looking for, and we've built that in. Then we'll be able to move straight into procurement, and they'll be breaking ground in April for that project and should be done by the end of June, mid-July. Any questions on recreation?
Any questions, council?
No.
All right, I have one. I know the design's coming out, like you said, for the all wheels park, but just a little hint to council. Is it going to be mostly cement, or is it going to be added fiberglass pieces to it, or can you even say that at this time?
Yeah, so what is being proposed is 2 pump tracks, a mini pump track that is asphalt, as well as for the little ones. Because that is one thing we heard loud and clear, is they wanted a spot for, the 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds to be able to be on their scooters on a pump track and not having to maybe be on the same area for a health and safety concern of those that more experienced riders that would be 12, 13, etc. So the pump tracks have been separated, which is kind of nice, as well as there's an asphalt bowl, and then there's a concrete streetscape. Look at me go. Like, yeah. I know what I'm talking about. Never rode a skateboard in my life, but
I just wanted to know if you could speak a different language, and you did all right there. So thank you. Councillor War, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Candace, I just have a question. With the expansion to the community center and then the addition of the all wheels park, Do you foresee in 2023 additional staff being needed to help run both of these new ventures?
So great question. Through you, Mayor. Yes, I do suspect you'll see, but it'll be summer students.
Okay.
So we'll be applying to the summer student grant programs and being able to utilize hopefully a couple of more summer students. Again, we are wanting, hopefully being able to see an outdoor, I don't really want to use the word canteen because it's not going to necessarily be all food based, but there'll be an opportunity for a youth to work at an outside booth there where, you know, we have maybe skateboard replacement parks. If you break a wheel, you break a spring, you can rent balls for the basketball courts. And if we're able to do that transition into the pickleball court, you're able to, you know, rent paddles, or if you break a paddle, you can buy a paddle. And you can get like kind of non-perishable. So you could grab a bag of chips, you could grab a granola bar, a Gatorade, or a bottle of water, those types of things. But the plan would not to be to have like hot food, you know, and have cooking capabilities out there, at least not out of the gate anyway, not the first year. Maybe it would grow into that, but we wouldn't be looking at doing that. Maybe some freezies, popsicles, you know, that type of thing. And then the concrete pad that's currently there, that where the skateboard park currently is, it is not included in the design. I've asked them to leave it because as soon as you do a concrete streetscape and as soon as you do the asphalt bowl and you move away from the modular setup, you have to, well, dig in the ground. So they're sunk into the ground. So we would literally be chipping that concrete pad up and getting rid of it. And that concrete pad is in beautiful shape. There's nothing wrong with it. And we have there's enough space over there to do it outside of that. So I think you're going to see that concrete pad utilized in a separate way. Staff and council is going to have to make a decision on that once the project is done, how we're going to utilize that, whether we put boards on it and that's our outdoor rink, whether we use it as a different outdoor court in the summer and it's an outdoor skating rink in the winter. I don't know. I don't want to handcuff us to too many ideas until we kind of see what we're left with at the end, but at least it's going to be an exciting kind of opportunity there that, again, we can engage the community to find out what it is they would like to see happen to that space.
Awesome.
Yeah, great.
Well,
Any other questions from council? I can hardly wait to put my rollerblades on and go shred something.
Well, that can always be at the grand opening,
There you
ribbon
go.
cutting.
Yeah, I'll need a helmet too.
Yeah, well, we're looking at getting something exciting for that grand opening. So I don't really know a lot about the skateboarding world, but some of our youth do, and trying to get maybe someone from that world that would come and maybe put on a little bit of a show at the grand opening. So stay tuned on that.
Sounds good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. No other questions on that. We'll be moving on then. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Parks Department, again, council has seen you have adopted the most recent 5-year parks plan that does kick off in 2022. So there you can see in the summary what each park is going to be receiving. Again, the highlights would be the playground expansion at the community center park, as well as a shade shelter at Norwood Park. And we do have to replace a section of the dock with Birdsall Wharf at the Birdsall Wharf, which is a joint venture with Autonomy South Monaghan. We'll see some new flag poles at the Cenotaph locations, some tree replacements, some bench replacements. Again, parks are pride of place for this township, so we'll continue that and give our residents some great green spaces to enjoy. Again, pretty slight tax requirement increase there, but I'll take any questions.
Council?
Good.
My comment, I guess, phase 4, when it does come to fruition, there'll be probably a park up there too. So we'll be saving for some equipment for that, I guess. Would it be this year too, or would that fall into next year's budget?
No, so there will be a park in phase 4. We're not going to push phase 4 to the existing park that service 1, 2, and 3. That said, that green space was funded. I think I've told council a little bit about this, but you have to give 5% in parkland in lieu. So you either have to give the land or you need to give the 5% of the value of that land. So that hasn't been determined yet as to how that's going to roll out for phase 4. But again, it could be a combination of a certain amount of land and then 2.5% in land, 2.5% in funds, which would then buy the equipment for the land.
I see.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
No other hands, on to the next then, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, planning and economic development is probably seeing one of the more significant increases for the tax requirement across each department and across the township as a whole. Again, increase in legal expenses. Again, in this agenda, you've seen the third quarter variant. So I don't know if you picked up and noticed that the legal expenses for the planning department's taking a pretty heavy hit due to this ongoing LPAT case. As of February of 2022, it will have been 4 years. The next hearing date is March 1st. Update to development charges bylaw to capture provincial regulation requirements. Again, that project, I do have a kickoff meeting on December 6th for that. We are going to move forward. It'll be Q1 of 2022 for council. Entrance sign installation. So the entrance signs, we have the posts and we have the capping, and we should have the signs, they're saying about mid-December. So we're not going to move forward and install them just before winter. We are going to have to get a vacuum truck to suck out where we're going to put the holes, and then a concrete truck to concrete them in. We don't really want to be dealing with that in January. So, and again, let's just save the signs and let them not weather for a winter, and we'll put them out early and get them up early spring. But they are quite beautiful. So pretty excited to see those go up. Work plan for the special projects committee, that has been earmarked in there. Having my meeting with them on December 6th in the evening. So we'll be able to see where it falls with them. And we'll obviously be reporting back to council on that. And I may even be able to do that on the 14th of December. Transfer of community programming coordinator to this budget due to a shift a bit in that job description to economic development assistant. And support for local events and shop local initiatives. So we've been pretty aggressive. We've heard from the community loud and clear about supporting our local businesses. And I think the Shop Local campaign during the summer, the residents and the businesses love it. And we are continuing that initiative into the Christmas and holiday season, which is Shop Home for the Holidays is the campaign. So we will be moving forward with that, and it will be launching. We've given the teaser out on social media already, and it will be launching later this week. And then it'll come to a close on obviously right around Christmas, but with the final night market event on Saturday, December 18th. So I will be giving a full update on that in my CIO list, but that is the planning and economic development highlights. Again, general ledger descriptions and exactly what's going in each GL has been provided with the agenda package. So if you have any specific questions, by all means, just ask.
Thanks. Council, questions, comments?
No, that's good.
All right. I just wanted to say I was just happy to see the $10,000 allocated to the Special Projects Committee. Like was mentioned before, it's tough to have a committee without a budget. So I think everyone should be excited about that. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it should be a pretty standard allocation. I believe we need to be supporting our volunteer committees, not just with time and labor resources, but with financial resources. So they're giving their time. So they want to be able to make an impact. So whether that's culture and heritage, whether that's trails, whether that's special projects, that's the new, from my chair, that's the new norm. So.
Yeah, just further to that, it's a vested interest, and it is their money too that they're spending if they're taxpayers. So I just think it's a great, I'm just glad that we're doing it and it looks good. So thanks.
You're welcome, Mayor.
All right, any other questions, concerns? Nothing? Moving on then.
So again, you see here the department comparison. Traditionally, you've seen this in a pie graph chart form, but I find with the colors, it's very difficult sometimes to actually make out what each department is, especially the smaller ones when you've got like 1% of the pie, it's hard to see. So I did it in chart form for you this year. I think it's a little easier to read. So you can see that traditionally you've always heard me say that transportation, so roads and policing, 50% of the budget right off the hop. Then again, continue to run through at about 49% in 2022. And there's a breakdown of each of the department and the contribution of the 2022 budget and what's going to support each one of them.
Very good. Anyone have any comments? No? Okay.
Again, capital versus operating. You've seen this slide traditionally each year as well. And again, following in suit, operating and the fixed costs to operate the municipality and all the facilities within it, running at 87%, and the capital running at about 13% of the operating budget.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about that is when you go to get elected and you're running and you think you can change the world, and then all of a sudden reality hits you and you go, oh, gee, 87% of the taxes are already spent. So you really have to plan for the future with the 13% that possibly could be there, but it's partially spent already too. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, Mayor. Great segue into the next slide. Speaking of saving for the future is the reserve slide. So you have heard me say for the last 2 years that there was going to be a reckoning day of all of what we've been putting together from a financial picture perspective. Reserves exist for 2 reasons. One, because it is an allocation for a long-term replacement of an asset. And whether that it takes 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, whether that's a water main in the ground, a grader that's grading the roads, major equipment at a community center or a facility as a whole, you can't take that on in one budget. So A, it's allocation for future asset replacement, and B, it's surplus. So surplus at the end of the year, whether that's an operational surplus or a capital surplus, it gets allocated to the department that has that surplus for future utilization in that budget, or it goes to the working funds reserve to support the township portion of grants that we receive that are no longer 100%. So as you've noticed, so Centerline Road, we only paid 6% of the cost of that. But as you can see, the community center project, we're paying 26%. So it funds those differences so that we're able to capitalize, because you never know when the provincial or federal government is going to drop these grants. So we try so hard to have projects that are shelf ready. It's one thing to have a project designed and part of your long-term plan sitting there. It's completely another story to ensure that you have your 25% or 5% sitting in the bank to fund the portion, because 9 times out of 10, you've got 12 to 24 months to complete it, and you can't tack that on to the taxpayers just because the province released a funding stream. So it boils down to financial planning. And here it is right here. You've seen that the support of council and good financial management has enabled us to be able to get the fitness center at the community center. It's enabled us to get the All Wheels Park, Centerline Road. We're able to move forward with the ICIP green application for a new water tower, et cetera. And it's because of these reserve balances. And it is going to take a hit. They are exceptionally healthy. It's time to put those funds back into the community. It's taxpayer money. It's time that they start enjoying it. So you're going to see that the estimated reserve balance at the end of next year is sitting approximately around the $4 million mark. That does not include any surplus allocation of 2021, because obviously that's not determined yet. The year is not finished. So those are basically the 2 reasons why we have this balance, and we are in good position. And again, the auditors have been saying that to council for the last few years. It's in a healthy position, but it's time to start putting those funds back in. So any questions on the reserves?
Any questions, comments? My comment then would be that I remember 8 years ago, 7 years ago, we hardly had any reserves for anything. And closure of the dump, there was nothing there for that. The auditors did speak up and say, you're going to be in a mess if all hell breaks loose. Well, COVID's come and it's still here with us. And look at us go now as far as a healthy community. So my hat's off to staff, especially you, Candace, that you've kept us on the straight and narrow, and without you at the realm, I don't think we'd be where we sit today. You've surrounded yourself with good staff, and you're doing a fine job. And this budget actually shows that at less than 1%. I mean, there's nobody that can complain about that that I would know of. I think going forward, you still need to have something to ask of the taxpayers in order to run a business. And this is a business that needs to be run, and it's being run very well. So thank you to you and your staff. And any questions, Councillor, comments? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, and it really, through you, Mayor, it's really just to echo what you just said. I love the approach. I've been here now. This is second or third budget time through. We go at it department by department over the course of 2 or 3 council meetings. So it's not one big meeting where we go through everything. And this summary that you put together that basically highlights by department what the key drivers are of either saving or spending makes it really easy to understand, makes it very easy to answer questions to the public because the answers are right in front of us. So I do thank you and your team for putting it together in a really easy to understand and communicate format for us, and to be able to also chat those if any discussions come up from residents. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? My only other comment was to you, Candace, just to reiterate one more time, the allocation of the taxes that we collect, that this is not just the end. Even though we're at 1%, county still comes into the picture with their percentage that they're going to collect as taxes that get added, as well as the school board. So I just wanted you to reiterate that for us, or maybe I just did it, but the fact is that 1% is not where it stops. We do the best that we can as far as the council of Asphodel-Norwood, and our staff go above and beyond to try to save money. They've done that for years now, and we made a promise back then that if you saved it, you get to keep it basically, or if not, then we'll replace it somehow. So I'm just glad that we're true to our word and that we're doing the best that we can for our residents. And it's proof in the pudding just by how this reports come forward to us. So thanks again.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
All right. So R5 that we've just talked about was our operating and capital budget. So I need a motion then to accept this, and further that the Township of Asphodel-Norwood authorize the staff to proceed with scheduling the public meeting to adopt the 2022 municipal operating and capital budget on December 14th, 2021. Motion by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor War. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Very good. Okay, our sixth then, Candace, another good subject for us here regarding our draft 2022 Norwood Water, Norwood Sewer, and Trentview Estates water budgets. Please, Candace, the floor is yours. We can see it.
Good. Okay, perfect.
These drops.
Okay, so to keep the budget theme alive, Norwood Water and Norwood Sewer rates, draft 2022 budgets. We'll start with the Norwood Water system. Again, council have seen this slide traditionally before. The system does consist of 4 wells. All 4 wells are online and certified through the ministry, so which is great. Finally got that 4th well online. 1 well house, treatment facility, a disinfection system, a chemical feed system for corrosion control, standby power, a standpipe, and of course all the distribution pipe that supplies water to all the residents within the village.
Candace, the screen
Yes.
didn't change on us again here.
Yeah, it's doing the same thing, Candace.
It's sink or swim with the bubble still.
Well, let me try this again.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not sure why
fine.
it's doing this, but maybe it likes me to do everything twice. Hold on.
You know what? It's such an efficient meeting. It doesn't. It's good just to keep an extra couple minutes here anyway. So there we go.
Oh, this time we're good.
overview of water system. That's what you see?
Yes,
Okay. The groundwater communal well water supply is a total design capacity of 1,965 cubic meters a day. Council's heard that a lot in the last 3 years. I hope you have that number memorized by now. And we're sitting about 640 cubic meters per day. Water meters, users are billed based on a billing model of 75-25, so 75% fixed and 25% variable. This has been the way since 2014 when the water meters went in, and that model is proposed for 2022. And there are currently approximately 1,000 water meters in the village, which is an increase of approximately 100 since the budget was presented last year. And of course, that is due to the growth in Norwood Park and Birch Street. The unfunded capital portion of the budget, unfunded capital projects, basically are projects that were completed, paid for, but not funded in the financial statements. So the auditors back in 2014 and 15 were bringing it up. I think they traditionally brought it up for decades because some of the projects, if we skip ahead here, were back in 07, 08. But we took a report to council, got their buy-in, started a 20-year repayment plan on the books. Again, it's important to note, yes, these projects were paid for. The contractors who performed the work were paid. They just weren't funded on the financial statement. So basically, it's a paper exercise. The checks were written. No panic there. But again, it's $50,002.81 on an annual basis. And we've got that down to $650,000 remaining. It started at about $1 million. So it's going to take a bit of time to get it done, but each year we're supporting that allocation and the auditors are very happy to see that. And see here, I have marked a couple of projects that are, I guess you could say, fully funded now based on the allocations. And we're working on the next one, which is the water meters and upgrades of 2012. Obviously, the biggest project that remained unfunded was a water main that needed to be replaced on Highway 7. And one of the biggest reasons that a capital project becomes unfunded is because an unexpected, this rewinds back to the municipal operating budget during that presentation when I mentioned there's 2 reasons why reserves exist. And so this is exact reasons why a funding stream came up, and they were able to capitalize on a funding stream, but didn't have the money in reserves in order to pay their portion. And also they had huge infrastructure deficits. That breakage, the water main on Highway 7, it needed to be replaced, but no reserves in order to fund it. So they write the checks, but it's not funded. And as you can see, the water system runs on a shoestring budget in order to ensure that the rates are stable for the residents. And so this is what it creates, is unfunded. So basically, the township loaned them this money. It's internal debt. We internally funded it. So just explain a little bit further. Does anyone have any questions so far?
just a comment from myself. So the water meters, they originally were professed to be free to the water users at the time. Now, in hindsight of that, having the water meters, and maybe you can help me with this, but the water meters have been invaluable to us actually going forward, because they let us know exactly how much water we're using in the community, as well as how much water infiltration's coming through into our filtration plant that's not actually coming from our water tower, but we still have to treat it anyway. So am I correct in stating that?
Yes, so the water meters were installed for a couple of reasons. So water meters support conservation. So when you're on a flat rate billing cycle and you get, let's just use the round number, $50 a month. You receive a bill for $50 a month and you have no idea how much water you're conserving or consuming. But when you put in a water meter and people start getting billed based on their usage and consumption, a couple of things happen. One, awareness. They become aware of like, wow, I actually utilize that much water, and they become aware of their actions, and then maybe start to take steps to conserve water. So from a municipality that's on a well system where capacity and the amount of water we're treating and putting out, whether it's from an environmental standpoint or a financial standpoint, that awareness is exceptionally important. And two, exactly what the mayor said. Now we know exactly, we have a comparison. What water we're treating going out the door is X number of cubic meters. This is the X number of cubic meters we're billing for. This is the difference. So the difference could be, we have to take into account hydrant flushing. So we do hydrant flushing every year. There's a loss of water. We bring new water main on board. We flush out the new water main. We swab it. There's a loss there. And then of course, aging infrastructure and deficits in the system where we could have infiltration, and how much are we losing there. So twofold water meters provide the opportunities for both of those pieces of viable information that in order to be able to operate the system more efficiently as a whole. So.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. You just sparked a question. I was just wondering how the progression of some of the replacement water meters is going in the township. I know that it's been an ongoing project. I was just curious with that question about the water meters.
Sure. We have about 450 replaced. So all of the ones that have stopped working, and meaning we can no longer read them. So when we do the remote read in order for billing, we've replaced all of those. So now we're replacing and trying to get as many completed as possible of the 2011. So the 2011, there was 475 approximate meters installed in the village. And then we had about 640 in total. So about 165 would have been installed in 2012. So the ones that were installed in 2012 are warranted to the end of next year because it's a 10-year warranty. So the ones that the 475 that were installed in 2011 the warranty is up at the end of this year. And obviously we've seen catastrophic failure of these meters if we're replacing every single meter within the warranty period. None are lasting outside the warranty period. So that's not very comforting. So we've went to a 20-year warranty meter now. So we've got 450 replaced, 475. So there is a few that we're trying to catch up and struggle. There's been, it's an interesting project across the board, working with the residents and getting these done. But I can tell you that we're in a comfortable position, and all of those meters that we may not have replaced, we have procured, we've got the meters from the company, they've warranted them, and we have them in-house. We have them in stock. So we've got the equipment. We just necessarily haven't got them all in place, but 450 are done.
Yes.
Thank you. That was an in-depth answer, and I think it's really important as to what Mayor Bono was saying about, the water loss that happens if you don't have proper meters in place. So thank you.
My pleasure.
And just further to that, this is the part that I enjoy the most, is the fact that anyone watching this from home may believe that this might be rehearsed, but it's council's questions coming from out of nowhere, and just the fact that our CAO has her thumb on our heartbeat of the township, that any question, and she has the facts and figures right there off her mind in her head, and you can't tell me that she doesn't know her business. So just as another note, that when you get charged per cubic meter on your water, a cubic meter works out to 220 gallons. So, and the average household uses around 6 cubic meters, I believe. So it's a fair amount of gallonage that they use in a month or 30-day billing period, I guess. Or is it a 60-day period, Candace?
It is,
60
yes.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor. So moving on, the 2022 Norwood water budget does propose, and again, a zero impact to the tax base. It's always important to remember that this is user funded. So users of the system fund the requirements, whether that's operating or capital for the actual system itself. So we're seeing an increase of about $34,000 in revenue for the Norwood water system, and that's going to fund $22,000 in capital and approximately $12,000 in operating expenses.
Any comments or questions on that? Okay, thank you.
Areas of significant impact include the aquifer capacity study. So again, as reported to council, it is a multi-pronged approach to determine the future of growth in the water system within the village. And that includes the EA project for the water tower, which is complete, and council will be receiving the final report in the next meeting or two in regards to that. The second prong to that decision-making is the aquifer capacity study. The wells, they've been drilling the monitoring wells over the course of the last 2 weeks. They're drilling again today. So we'll be able to start pumping in the beginning of December to determine the actual capacity of the aquifer. And that'll determine how much water we have and how that equates to the 1,965 cubic meters a day. And so the concern, obviously, of the community, as well as everyone sitting around this Zoom meeting today, is that it's great that we're only using 640 cubic meters of the 1965 that we are permitted to use by the ministry, but we need to prove that we have 1965, or I think you're going to see more than the 1965 that we have available to us on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and can sustain us even in a situation where maybe we have a water main break and a fire at the same time. So, what are the boundaries and the limitations of the aquifer supply? So again, that report is going to come to council in February, March-ish, which is going to be perfect timing to find out if we're successful with the water tower funding. Again, replacement of the water main on Ridge Street from Pine Street to the west up to the end. Replacement of the water main between the businesses that front County Road 45 and Victoria Street. So it's really hard. It's a weird little water main that was installed decades ago, and it comes off of Highway 7 behind the drugstore. And it comes down in behind the drugstore, behind the bank, behind the library, cuts underneath that little garage that's there, kind of cuts underneath the expansion at the back of the Home Hardware, and then juts on a 90-degree angle back out to Victoria Street. It's a ticking time bomb, as our water manager likes to call it, and keeps him up at night. So he's pretty excited. We don't want to be flooding out those businesses, and it's in really, really, really rough condition. So we're going to be replacing that water main. When this offsite sanitary project is being done here on Victoria Street, they are putting the stub in on the street off into the property line. So when we do this project next year, we don't have to go out into the road allowance. We'll just be connecting right to that stub. We'll be replacing services on Margaret Street. So the developer for Norwood Park Phase 3, part of the subdivision agreement was he had to upsize the water main on Margaret. So the street's going to be ripped apart. So we will be replacing the services that are municipal responsibility, which is from the water main itself into the property line. And then it'll be up, of course, to the property owner to determine whether they're going to replace their service from the property line into their home. It will be recommended to them based on new infrastructure. Going into old infrastructure tends to sometimes cause a bit of a problem. So that'll be done next year. Of course, the unfunded capital, and then probably it's nice to see a positive impact on the budget, which of course is the increase in users due to growth. Any questions?
I only have a comment. Is when you talked about the replacement of the services on Margaret Street, that'll happen next year, like you were saying, but I just wondered if we shouldn't send out some form of a notice sooner than that. So then it's like us when we're doing our budget, they possibly could budget for that for themselves and all of a sudden not get the letter a month beforehand, possibly to say, hey, look, maybe it's a good idea that you do this, but if we give them, 6 or 8 months to try to save up for it, they may be more willing to try to get it done to save a problem in the future. So just a thought.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, concerns, questions? Nothing. All right. Thank you, Candace.
You're welcome. So here's a breakdown of the capital projects that are going to take place. Again, most of them circle back to the significant impact slide, because if it's capital, it tends to be significant impact. But these are the dollar figures that are attached to it. That comes up with a net capital cost of approximately $274,000. Again, we do have to, a budget is just that. It is a budget. It is our best guess. So we need to be prepared. So we're going in optimistic and hoping that we will be successful in the ICIP stream for the water tower. So that is why you see that there for the funding, the water tower design and the ICIP funding, the Green Stream Tower. So you see the 74,000 there. So that's why you see that allocation. You see the unfunded, you see transfer from reserves. Again, it's for the water main replacement behind the businesses on County Road 45, as well as to fund the difference for the water tower. Aquifer capacity study, again, it's growth driven, so development charges are paying for it. So growth paying for growth, the users aren't paying for that portion. And of course, all the water mains replacements. Any questions in regards to the capital that's being proposed for 2022?
Council, nothing? Okay, thank you.
And of course, what everybody wants to know, so the proposed rates for 2022, so you'll see the cubic meter rate is going to be 70 cents per cubic meter, with the monthly fixed rate being $27.02. When it comes to rates and when it comes to balancing consumption, so when you look at 160,000 cubes a year, how that boils down to the number of users, et cetera, we're pretty close to balancing to zero, as you're going to get when you're looking at all of the variables that are in play. So a slight reduction of 47 cents per month on the fixed side and a penny difference on the variable rate per cubic meter. Any issues or questions on the rates?
No, it's a good news story for anyone that lives in the village, that's for sure.
Again, the reserves story continues. Projected balance for the end of the year is the system will likely sit around 600,000 in reserves. And that is the net transfer that's going to be coming out. And that's the projected balance then at the end of the year. So still healthy enough to handle any sort of funding opportunity that comes up or any sort of emergency.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So again, we always like to show council and the public what the average monthly consumption is and how that equates down into the bi-monthly billing. So anywhere from 5 cubic meters a month, which is, 1 or 2 person home, you're going to save approximately 54 cents a month. So you're going to save $1.10 on your bi-monthly bill, all the way up to a commercial entity that would use 100 cubes in a month is going to see about a $4 reduction over a bi-monthly cycle. So, pretty close to being status quo, but I'm hoping the residents are satisfied that it's not going in the other direction. So any questions?
Oh, good job. Thank you.
Very good.
You're welcome. So we're going to head into the Norwood sewer system. So again, the system is comprised of approximately 945 users. We do have some sections of the village that are on water and not on sanitary. That's why there is a slight difference between the users of the two systems. Again, the billing model is going to continue. So the water consumption does feed the sanitary budget. So your cubic meters that is billed based on your water meter transfers over to what you're charged on a cubic meter side on the sanitary. We are looking for a $12,000 increase in revenue, which balances out to a $15,000 increase in capital and approximately $3,200 in operating. And again, it is a user pay system and a net balance of 0, which means that there is 0 impact to the tax base and the users fund themselves. Areas of significant impact, you're going to see holdback for replacement of sanitary main from County Road 40 to Marianne Lane that was completed in 2021, the maintenance holdback. Very similar, you see it for Centerline Road. Pretty much any big capital project we do, there's a 1-year maintenance period. So we keep a 10% holdback and go through a 1-year maintenance period before assumption and all as well. Then obviously we release the final 10%. Completion of the offsite sanitary main project, so through the easement out over to Wellington Street, which is funded through the developer and development charges. It's in here as significant impact, but it's having 0 impact on the rates. seeing an increase in users, and we are replacing the electric chain hoist at the pumping station, an alum panel and a new affluent pump, an increase in administration hours, and of course the debenture that's been there since 2010. So the increase in administration hours is simply the finance clerk role is split between 4 departments. So Trempealeau Estates, Norwood Sanitary, Norwood Water, and the municipal budget for accounts payables and accounts receivables. And we are seeing that due to all the growth, the water meter replacement project, all of the new accounts coming online, everything, definitely becoming more and more heavy on the water sanitary side for sure. So we've just done a slight adjustment there to ensure that the hours that that individual is spending in each area is being accounted for properly. Capital expenditures, again, borrowing costs and loan replacement, that's the debenture for the wastewater treatment plant build. Capital equipment, capital projects, and we're pulling $200,000 from the development charge reserve to fund the offsite sanitary project for a net capital cost of just shy of $193,000. Again, the full breakdown of all of the capital equipment and full explanation is in the general ledger Excel spreadsheets attached to the budget if you need some further detail. Debenture matures in 2045. It used to seem like really far out, and it just seems like now when you say it, I don't know, we're into like 2022, it just seems getting closer and closer. And I guess that's a good thing for the maturity of a debenture, but not for the rest of us. You'll see that the balance at the end of 2022 is just shy of 1.3 million. It was a $2 million debenture, if that helps. You'll see that it's $425,000 in projected reserves and for the sanitary at the end of this year, and there's no projected transfers. You'll see a reserve transfer in the previous slides, but again, that's development charge transfer. It's not the sanitary dedicated reserve. So we're not pulling anything out of there and we're not adding anything in. It's a healthy reserve. It can just do its thing there at $425,000. The rates, seeing again a slight decrease in the fixed rate of about 12 cents per month, and a decrease in the variable rate of about 6 cents. So again, a slight decrease, but these decreases aren't, I think, significant enough that they're causing an impact to future financial planning or reserve allocations or capital asset management replacements or operations, but also ensuring that we're not going in the other direction for the residents. You can see that if you are a 1 or 2 person home and you're going to see approximately 80 cents on a bi-monthly basis, right up to a commercial entity that's going to see about a $12 reduction on a bi-monthly basis. So that equates to, if you're on both systems, you're going to see about $2 every bi-monthly and $16 bi-monthly if you're a commercial entity, and in reduction for those that are on both Norwood Water and Norwood Sanitary systems. And I will leave it for council for any questions.
Pretty straightforward. Good job. Thank you for crunching the numbers, and thank Kyle for us too. Questions, councilor, comments, concerns?
Okay, I will move on to Trempealeau Estates.
Please, thank you. The joys of technology.
Yeah, it's gone. Hold on. It's missing in action here. Okay.
Just, there it goes. Thank you.
Nope,
Sink or swim. There's them bubbles again.
teardrop.
I know. See what it's going to do this time. I may just stop it and start over once, assuming it's going to not start talking. Let's see if it's going to flip.
Yeah.
You guys, the first round, did it flip?
No.
No?
Nope.
No.
At least I didn't let you get halfway through it this time before I
Oh.
told you.
Live and learn, I guess, eh?
I just wanted to say, Councillor Walsh, that when the sewer bill goes out, that idea and people get charged through their water to know how much sewer they're sending out is the fact is that it's a good time to tell them about the rain barrels to water their lawn, because they're saying, well, we're not sending it down the toilet, we're actually putting it in our garden, but rain barrels are a good thing to help save too. So
Absolutely.
Okay.
we're good.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess it's he just wants me to do it twice. So Trent View Estates water system consists of about 86 properties in the southern end of the village that borders the Trent River. We do purchase the water that supplies this subdivision from the municipality of Trent Hills, that is pulled right from the Trent River and is treated literally a stone's throw from the Trent View Estates subdivision. There is 12 vacant lots which continue to sell. We have seen some new builds in that subdivision, starting to see it built out with the housing boom, which is nice to see. There's a booster pumping station. We do have standby power there now, which is great. Current daily demand on the system is 28 cubic meters a day, and we're allowed to use 1,658. So obviously there's not a whole lot of concern there. We've seen an increase in users as stated, and there was a couple of major leaks that we discussed a couple of budgets ago, and they were found and repaired on the private side. The 2022 Trent View Estates budget looking for a slight increase of about $400 in revenue, which is going to go directly to operating expenditures. And again, it is a net zero and is going to have zero impact on the tax base, and it funds itself. $65,000 is sitting in reserves and no need to pull from and no need to add to. It's again, it's been enough with just surplus allocations throughout the years. We're seeing a slight increase to the variable rate, which matches Trent Hills. They just give us the rate and we adopt it. They have not adopted their final budget, but they will have adopted their final budget the same week we're adopting ours. So I'll have those final rates just to ensure that we're still in alignment with everything, and they've had no change there. No change in the pipe charge, and a 97-cent decrease in the monthly fixed rate.
So just to comment on that, so that just to help council out again here, or to refresh their memory, is that in the village of Norwood, there is no pipe charge, but because it's Trent Hills over there that we take our water from, they have a pipe charge. So just to bring that back into perspective there.
Mm-hmm.
And at one time, I believe the pipe charge was a lot more expensive than that, wasn't it, Candace?
Yeah, it was about $14 at one point. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They did a water rate study with Watson and Associates for 2020. So they completed it in 2019. And what they've done is they've revamped all of their structures and what their rate structure and what they charge. And it definitely worked out in our favor. So what they do is they charge on a per size of service. So if you have a 3/4 inch service, you pay this monthly fixed rate. If you have a 1 inch service, you pay this monthly fixed rate. If you have a 2 inch service, you pay this monthly fixed rate. Over there, we have a large service, obviously, coming in because it's feeding 86 homes. It isn't your traditional 3/4 inch service that goes into a home. I believe it's a 2 inch service. And so when they done the rate structure, they just balance that out a little bit more. And you've seen a reduction in that 2 inch service flat pipe charge rate. So that's why.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification on that one.
You're welcome. Average monthly difference, you can see here, as I stated, 30-cent reduction right down to about $1 reduction, which is nice to see. And it's not much to say in regards to this. So the users are going to see a slight reduction, transfer of billing over from Trent Hills into the users of the system. You're going to see a public meeting, there's going to, the public meeting for the zoning for Gibson, which is the 7th line, those lots that are part of Trent View Estates. So if we've seen 2 or 3 more homes, you'll start, that's going to just keep coming down. Another lot, vacant lot sold on Park Lane in the subdivision. You're going to see a house there. And we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 new builds in the last 3 years. So that's probably going to be another 4 builds based on what we're seeing now. So, just going to start to see that number coming down because there's more users to spread the cost of the system over, which is nice to see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to argue with a good news story, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, no questions or comments on anything. Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I just want to know, were all of the water main, were all cambered there with the 2 major leaks that were found? They were on the private side. So have all the leaks been identified?
No, I don't know if we'll ever really know. There's some interesting infrastructure there. We actually have a water main that goes, I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but you go up River Road, up and at the top, there's Pine Ridge Road.
Mhm.
So there's actually a water main that goes from Pine Ridge Road down on, I guess it'd be the north end of that street, straight down to the northern cul-de-sac end of Heather Glen. Kind of, there's an easement in there. We have pressure reducing valves in there because obviously that it's coming off that hill at a pretty good clip. So there's been talk about trying to find out what's going on in that water main because we camera sanitary, we don't camera water main. So it tends to be more age-based infiltration. That's why it's really important to go back to the water meter. What are we billing? What are we using? And that difference. There is still some very insignificant leaks in that system, but nothing that is reinventing that we need to really start digging up major infrastructure to find out. That said, there could be the day.
Otherwise, a really good news story.
Any other comments or concerns, questions? Councillor Archer, please.
Through you, Mayor. Candace, how old is that main over there? Like, what's the life expectancy of it in Trent Hills?
Like in Trent View Estates, they
No,
got
Trent View,
funding.
sorry, not Trent Hills.
Trent View Estates, they got funding for it. I know who the manager, I'm gonna say 09,
Okay.
20, like 2008 to 2000 and yeah, 8, 9 in that range. So it's not crazy old.
No.
Like I would say it's at most 15 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so I'm looking for a motion then that we accept this presentation. Just bear with me on this, on the draft 2022 Norwood Water, Norwood Sewer, and Trent View Estates water budgets for information. And further that we authorize staff to proceed with scheduling the public meeting to adopt the 22 water, Norwood Sewer, and Trent View Estates water budgets for December 14th, 2021. Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Great job. Thank you very much. All right, R7 then, Candace, again, regarding our 2022 municipal office closure and statutory dates. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, housekeeping item. Traditionally at this time of year, we bring forward to council the 2022 municipal office closure and statutory dates schedule. You can see that it's attached as an appendix to the report and basically mirrors everything that traditionally we've recognized in the township for years and years. So it just follows suit with that. One thing you do not see on here is the Truth and Reconciliation Day in September 30th. I haven't heard anything from council on that date or received any direction, so I didn't put it in the schedule, leaving it to council to provide direction if they want to go down that road at some point, then to just let me know and we can add it to the schedule. I know it's a federal recognized at this point in time. The province of Ontario hasn't recognized it yet. And I suspect most municipal governments, some of them have taken it on, like Northumberland County especially. I don't think anybody in Peterborough County has this year, but waiting for either the upper tier to take it on, which I don't think they did this year, and neither did the province. So it's kind of still split in regards to recognizing that day. So I didn't include it and be presumptuous in regards to that. So I'll leave it to council for any comments or concerns.
Okay, I'm just wondering if, I mean, that is an important day in our history. I didn't know if council wanted to have a discussion on that now, or if you wanted to have a staff report come back on something that, you know, if the timing for them as far as, like Councillor Ward mentioned before, how their workload would go, and if it's able to be taken as a half day or a full day or something like that. It's open for discussion at this time if we'd like to talk about it. Candace, you have a thought?
I would prefer not a half day.
Yeah,
Just
no,
from
I
an
believe that. Yeah,
operational standpoint.
that was just me being cheap.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, nothing like telling it like it is, but yeah, I
Yeah.
prefer not a half day.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Only in the morning you can take it off, right?
Yeah, it's not, yeah, believe it. or not.
Anyways, we don't have to discuss it now, but it might be something we put on the action list, maybe that it can come back and we can discuss it when Deputy Mayor Burt's back with us. That might be a good time too to talk about it. So, any thoughts, Council? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Ken, this is a date we could add later. If we adopt what we have now, we could still potentially add a Truth and Reconciliation Day at a later point.
Yes, of course, definitely. I would just ask that it be addressed in Q1, just for planning and purposes. So for staffing, and I know where staff are and agendas and council and kind of just, it's
absolutely.
pretty close to Thanksgiving and it tends to help people book their vacation times as well. So if we could just figure that out in Q1, that would be the preference. But yes, it doesn't have to be today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Ward, you had your hand up?
Yes, I think that we maybe should address it later. I think it's a very important date to remember, and how it would be nice if the provincial government would, recognize it as an important date for many First Nations. So I'm willing to defer it and discuss it at another time.
Okay, so if it went on the action list, Candace, and then had a specific date, end date and time, maybe, would that be a good suggestion?
Yep, we can add it to the action list. That's no problem.
Does that need to be a motion of council then?
We can deal with it at the action list report if you want, which is up next.
All right, let's do it then. Okay, thank you. So then if there's any other discussion on the closure dates other than the reconciliation day, no hands. Okay, this motion then would be that we accept this report regarding the closure dates for information, and that we approve the 2022 municipal office closure dates and statutory dates as presented. Motion by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Ward. Any other discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, then R8, Candace, management action list, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So you see what we've addressed today, December 14th. It's the last meeting of the year, as well as we don't have another one until the 4th Tuesday in January. So it's going to be a good meeting. And we're going to spend some time together before the holidays. So that said, what do you want for the public meeting? Do you want me to go through the entire presentation again? Would you like me to change up it's a lot to sit through and listen to twice back to back. That being said, it is the public meeting, so it's more for the public, but I'm sure the people who are watching it today are going to be the ones watching it on December 14th. But would you like to see anything different, anything condensed? I'm thinking I may be able to condense instead of going department by department, I can include all the slides and just do significant impacts as the township as a whole, and list the major capital items that are happening And then kind of the charts of the department comparison, how much goes to the county and education, but not go into so much depth per department, but include it in the agenda package.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you got to sit through all this exact same thing again on the 14th of December.
My only thought on that is for open and transparency reasons. So if we're going to advertise the public meeting. So if somebody's upset with us as far as how COVID's concerned and they actually want to get involved or something like that, or be part of that meeting to listen and sit in, and then we do a Coles Notes version of it, then they may miss half of it and then send out a confusing message to the rest of the township, as far as I would think. But it's up to council. I mean, I don't mind sitting through it. I think having more, and coming into an election year too, having more, and to reiterate the fact again, even though let's just say then we don't ask as many questions because we've already done it. But the fact is that I think the public has the right to go through it one more time to get it. And then it doesn't help. I mean, it would help us too, to help it sink in, say more, but it's up to council. That's just my thoughts. Discussion?
Okay. I can bring the same thing back and go through it all again. That's fine.
Councillor Walsh, please.
For you, Mayor. Candace, what did we do last year? Did we kind of redo it again, or was there some minor tweaks to make it? I do agree with the mayor that we don't want to sell it short, but do we maybe you could still go through each slides, but we just kind of yellow highlight or bold highlight the bigger pieces that are hitting each budget, and we just kind of hit on those pieces versus every single line that we went through today.
Right. So
Again, I don't know.
prior to Zoom, prior to COVID, I presented once. So that when it came to the second meeting, it was just adoption. Council didn't want to sit through and listen to it again because there's nobody in chambers to tell it to.
Right.
That's right.
So I only ever presented it once. Last year, because we were on Zoom, was the first year I ever presented the exact same presentation, 2 meetings back to back.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking, because I've had it like 8 budgets one way and 1 budget another way. So I'm just kind of asking what council would prefer, so I know what it is that you want to see. I don't want to come in and present this whole next thing again and you're just like, oh boy. Or if you want to see it again, then that's exactly what I'll do. I guess I'm just asking what your preference is. So that's what I'm prepared for to do on the 14th. I know it like the back of my hand. So presenting it is not difficult for me. It's more for you guys, because you obviously have been living and breathing this from September, and it's out in the agenda package. It's already out on YouTube once. It's posted on the website. The ads have all went out. So I think the public will be well informed, and they'll also be able to register to attend if they would like to speak. So they'll have the opportunity to get involved, let's say, if they so choose. So I can, by all means, go through it all again, and maybe we'll just not, it didn't take us, I mean, we've been 2 hours, but we can go through it for another 2 hours if that's council's wishes, or maybe there won't be as many questions as
You may not have as many questions.
Yeah, because they're the only tweet, like the insurance came in at 18 point something. Like, I'm not going back and amending all of the budgets for that. It's 1% and change, so it's going to sustain. That was the only thing that was really that could have changed the final from today, and we're not going to see it. So it's going to stay status quo.
Nobody registers to speak, then don't be no questions asked anyway,
No.
right?
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Which would be kind of sad if nobody registered, but it'd be quick.
How's when the agenda goes out, they have what, 1 week to register? Is that right, Candace?
Yeah. Well, they have from Friday to, no, they don't have a week.
Okay.
Well, the ad's going to go up tomorrow. So they have from tomorrow until the Monday before, the 13th, to register. So they have plenty of time. So they don't have to wait for the agenda to go out to register, but maybe they would want to read the agenda before they decide that. And if that's the case, the agenda goes out on the Friday and they have to let me know the Monday. So they have the weekend to decide. I'll just present it all. I'll make it easy. I'll just present the whole thing. And based on how many are registered, based on the feel of council, the fact that the deputy mayor isn't here today, at least then she gets to hear it all again. She hears it because I'm sure she's not watching it on her vacation. So I'll do it for her sake, and for any public that's watching, we'll go through the whole thing.
Yep, it's a good education. It's a good education piece for everybody. So,
Okay,
yeah.
consider it done.
Great story. It's nice to hear it the second time.
It's a good story. We got a good story to tell. It's easily formatted for people to follow.
Yep.
I don't think they'll have the questions because we probably, unless I think of something, I'll probably ask you ahead of time, but there'll be less debate and questions or inquiries. So it should flow through pretty fast. And it is very self-explanatory for people. So I think we owe it to our taxpayers.
And I try to make it as layman as possible. So I try not to speak financial speak at them. So, okay, consider it done.
Okay.
I'll add the Truth and Reconciliation Day to February, March-ish,
Sure.
in that range, and we'll chat about it. Anything else you would like to see added? Changes, concerns, thoughts?
Councillor War?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Candace, was there an exotic animal bylaw that was on the action list that is still to be looked at, or did it fall off? Is it still on the agenda for management action list?
So the bylaw enforcement officer came to me and said that he would like to take a look at and revamp the exotic animal bylaw, which isn't actually that old.
Okay.
So I threw it on the action list, kept talking to him about it, and he sat down and looked at what he wanted to change, and he presented it to me, and it does not require a council report or council resolution to change it. They're exceptionally minor, so we're leaving it until there's a point in time. So he can deal with the current bylaw and do what he needs to do based on direction from me, and he is now going to, if there's ever any need for that bylaw to be completely revamped, then it'll come back to council, but it's going to stay status quo for now.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great catch on that one. All
She's
right,
watching.
any
She
other
wants to know where all the
questions?
snakes are.
I'm
Is that
closer.
it? Is that it for your management action list then?
It is from my chair, yes.
All right, seeing no hands then, so I'm looking for a motion then that we accept this report with the revisions that have been suggested. Motion by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor War. Any other discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, there's correspondence for action then. C5 would be Sean Morey, Executive Director, Peterborough Humane Society, regarding the Peterborough Animal Health Care. Everybody had this in their agenda, and basically the Humane Society is asking for us to somehow come up with $50,000 as far as money's concerned, I believe, to go towards them with their new build. Discussion? Councillor War.
I think it's a great project that Peterborough has taken on, and I think maybe some of this direction would have to come from the county, not from the lower tiers. And my thoughts at this time would just to receive the report.
Okay, so you're making that a motion. I'll ask for a seconder and we'll have more discussion. Seconded by Councillor Walsh. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Basically, just to echo what Councillor War has said, this really to me is more of a city of Peterborough, county of Peterborough discussion than it is down at the lower tier level looking for funding. So you could deal with it with your colleagues at county council.
Okay, let me tell you what county says then. Is county goes when the Humane Society actually comes to county goes, what are you talking to us for? We don't have the animals. It should go down to the lower tiers. So now they've come to the lower tier.
No.
So it's a
Upper
play
tier
ball.
problem.
Yeah.
tier issue.
Upper tier problem.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty major ask. Like, it's a pretty major ask for an asset in the city of Peterborough. And it's no different from my chair than ambulance, long-term care. It could go to joint services, the canoe museum. All of those big asks. It's great to say you don't fund the animals, that the animals are in our townships, but we pay the Peterborough County levy. So one organization could work it out with the city of Peterborough and be done with it. And we're all represented by one entity with a $50,000 ask. It's not a lower tier ask at all. My personal opinion.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion on the motion? Well, I'll just be blunt too. My thoughts are it's a pretty grandiose building. I mean, there's a lot of wasted space in it. I mean, I was pretty disappointed with them when they flew to somewhere like, and I could be wrong, but it was like the Northwest Territories and rescued some dogs that the people had up there, that they worked them, and that's how they work it. And I've even heard of humane societies flying over to the Olympics and getting the dogs that the people had over there in the cages that they use as livestock and brought them back to Canada. I mean, there's just some stuff that's just out of our realm here, where we have enough to be bothered with in our own province and in our own country, never mind traveling out of state or out of province to go pick up somebody else's mess that they have made. I guess that's just being blunt. That was my rant for the day. Apologize, council, staff. Anyway, the motion's on the floor. Any other discussion other than me carrying on with myself here? So
Well, I like the table an idea.
there you go. All right, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. All right, C6 then. Another good subject. This one, Councillor War. Okay, Dan Marinoff, CAO Secretary Treasurer, Otonabee Region Conservation Authority. And this is regarding the proposed 2022 operating and capital budget. Councillor War, you had your hand up, please.
I was just going to say to receive the report because it's already been in the budget prior to this. I think it was perhaps mixed up, but I think that we received the report. I make the motion to receive.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Archer. Any other discussion on this motion? All right, I promise not to carry on this one. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, Councillor Liaison reports. Anyone have anything verbal they'd like to say at this time? Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, through you, Mayor, and I apologize for talking so much today, but we had a meeting for the first time for the Asphodel-Norwood Cultural and Heritage Committee, and we had it at the Millennium Room last Monday in person. And so it was nice to see everyone, all the committee members, the volunteers. And so the committee has developed a budget and a work plan for 2022 with COVID protocols, of course, in place. And so some of the things that were discussed, there will be a cleaning and doing some research and planning of the collection at the Heritage Center in Westwood. I think that's the priority, to ensure that that collection remains safe. It's been almost 2 years since anyone's been into the building. And so looking through that, it's our #1 priority. The second thing, we've been asked by the library board to participate in the 100th anniversary of the Norwood Library. And so we are doing some researching with the goal of having a historical talk, perhaps in May, regarding the library and the Carnegie building that the Norwood Library is. And we have also been approached by the Norwood Legion Branch 300, and they want some information on World War I and World War II soldiers. So we're helping them out with that research as soon as we're able to get back into the building. And I just wanted to update you that we've had about 20 plus requests for information regarding ancestors, land, buildings, businesses that have been within our township. So we've been unable to help people with these requests, but hopefully in the next year, now that things have opened up a bit, we'll be able to get back into the building, do some research and get back to them. And we have big plans for the fall. We do have one big research project but we'll discuss that at a later point. So anyways, that's my report.
Thanks. And I take it you'll be sending some form of email off to Melanie. She's been
Already
Mhm.
done.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. Just keeps the facts straight.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything at this time? All right, seeing no hands, and thank you. CAO clerk treasurer's list, Candace. You had a bit of a break. Now you're back on the hot seat.
Thank you, Mayor. So the interim audit for 2021 is going to take place in person on December 15th and 16th. So staff is preparing for year end and get budget adopted on the 14th and right into audit on the 15th and 16th. Shop Home for the Holidays campaign is going to launch, and just to put it in everyone's calendar, that the night market is Saturday, December 18th on County Road 45. We're doing the call for vendors. So it's going to be a great night to kind of round out the Light Up the Township event and to support our local business owners and vendors. Alma Street is open, so I'm sure most people are aware, but in case anyone's watching is not. So yes, Alma Street is open. They're still working away out here on Victoria Street. But hoping to be up to the easement, which is just north of the apartment buildings there, where you see the trees cut down originally, by mid-December, and kind of off of Victoria. That's the hope. We hit rock last week, but fortunately it wasn't a shelf of rock. It was just a couple of massive boulders, so we were able to get through them in a day and out. So thank goodness we weren't having to hammer through rock for day on end, because it was really loud in this office, I can tell you, with that hammer going super loud. So it's moving ahead nicely. Albine Street, again, just have to do some work on the private side and get the sidewalks in the spring next year. And then moving on to, I'm assuming, the west end of Albine once we have some more information about phase 4. Basically it, sewing up the construction season. It's been a busy year, but things are starting to come to a close. And that's it for my chair, unless council has any questions.
Great job. Thank you. Council, questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Walsh, please.
That's awesome. The Shop Home for the Holiday campaign. That's great. Just another way that we're helping to support our local businesses. So love it. The only question I had, Candace, community awards evening on Thursday night. What is kind of required of us?
Be there at 6. So the agenda has been set. So it starts at 6:30. The mayor will be, it's going to be a pretty short evening. There's no food or hors d'oeuvres or mingling or social hours. So each nominee comes in, each nominee has their own table, full COVID policies in place, including proof of vaccination. And people come in, the mayor is going to give the opening remarks and introductions. I will give a brief explanation of each award and of each award winner. They will get their award and we'll go through it all, and the mayor will give closing remarks and out the door, and the councillors will present, actually hand the award to the winners, and then there'll be opportunity for pictures. There's been a nice banner made and we'll have some balloons and whatnot, but because of COVID, we can't get into food and all of that business. So it just changes everything for us. And with the case counts, I've been kind of gritting my teeth and hoping that Peterborough Public Health didn't come out with anything to change anything before Thursday, but it doesn't really. This type of event, I mean, recreation would be shut down before this type of event would be shut down, because it's really just kind of going in, sitting down, meeting, mask on, all double vaccinated, getting an award and leaving. So should be sewn up within an hour, I would suspect.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think the Lions Club, I think, had it based that they were coming at 7 or whatever. I think they may need to know it's 6:30.
The
last meeting I was
they
at.
received an invitation.
Yeah, Thanks.
But we will confirm with them that they are aware of the correct time.
Very good. Thank you. So I have my joke ready for that night. I'm ready to go. So.
Oh, no. I haven't received that joke to vet it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Okay, very good. Thank you for your list and questions.
Councillor
Any
Ward has
other
a question.
questions or comments? Councillor Ward? Yep.
Yes, through you, Mayor. I just had a question about the night market on, you said December 18th? And so is it inviting like artisans within the township as well to participate? And would there be like outside tents? How would they be sheltered? And it's all on 45?
Correct. It's all in 45. We're going to have some places for outside vendors who wish to prefer to stay outside, and we will be opening the town hall.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so the 45 will be closed, both ends. It's going to run from about 5 to 8. There'll be Christmas music playing, outside speakers of the town hall. There'll be people have the opportunity, hot chocolate shop. There'll be some Christmas characters running around to entertain the kids. And yeah, it should be a nice evening all outside. Hopefully the weather cooperates.
Yeah.
Is the mayor the Grinch this year or is somebody else the Grinch? I'm confused.
And we'll see if you'll be able to figure out who the Grinch is that night. There is a Grinch.
Yeah.
A Grinch is
heard.
coming. There's some
I've-
Grinch.
Let's see if you get through your joke Thursday night, Mayor. You might have another character.
Excellent. All right. On to general business then. Anyone have anything under general business? Other than the fact that the Santa Claus parade is this Saturday night. Everybody, that says, I guess the route is Queen and King still, the way I understand it.
Yes.
So,
We had it measured. There was some residents who were concerned in regards to the length of the parade being shortened. The previous parade route is 2.4 kilometers. This one is 2.2 kilometers. So just a different configuration. So perception's about 200 meters short.
Yeah.
Shorter than last time, so pretty insignificant. Same
Yeah.
as the parade route for the fall fair.
right. Okay, anything else under general business then, council? Seeing none, on the agenda, closed session. There is no closed session. And there's no notices of motion that I'm aware of, so. All right, Madam Clerk, on to bylaws then, please.
Being a bylaw to authorize entering into a merger agreement between Catherine Louise Stockdale and Catherine Louise Stockdale and David Ian Stockdale and the Corporation of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood be read a first, second, and third time and numbered bylaw 2021-59.
Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? That's carried.
Being a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement between Simply Voting Inc. and the Township of Asphodel-Norwood be read a first, second, third time and numbered bylaw 2021-60.
Motioned by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held November 23rd, 2021, be read a first, second, third time and numbered bylaw 2021-61.
Motioned by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. You see your future meeting schedule ahead of you. And at this time then, before we adjourn, I just want to thank once again staff for all their hard work. For the budget presentation. Yes, we are going to see it one more time on December 14th, but it's a good news story. 1%, less than 1%. You can't ask for much better than that. So good work, staff. And thank you very much, council, for your hard work that you've done over this year too. So the recommendation then is that the meeting held today be adjourned at 3:23 p.m. and thus to meet again at our regular meeting on December 14th, 2021 at 1 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Motioned by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And thank you, staff, again. And to those of you at home, be safe. And remember, shop often and shop local. That's just a segue into this one night that we're going to have coming up soon. Have a good afternoon.